Welcome to the 8th episode of Let's Talk Sports by the Lake. I'm your host, Julian Howell, and this is my co-host, Jacob Bartko. And today we're going to talk about the NFL. So, Jake, this past weekend, the divisional round happened in the playoffs. And can you tell us the scores?
Sure. Well, in the AFC, the first game we're going to discuss is the New England Patriots versus the Tennessee Titans. That game was decided very handily by the Patriots. They won by a score of 35-14, and they really set the tone early with their defense. There were some big plays by their defense, a lot of sacks on Marcus Mariota. I think, what did they have, 8 sacks total?
8 sacks total, and they did a great job not allowing too many points. It was only 14 points. They've done a great job of that since week 5 of this season, and that's something that Matt Patricia is known for doing as a defensive coordinator, not allowing too many points.
Absolutely. So they really set the tone again with their defense. They had 8 sacks. They only allowed 14 points to the Titans. The Titans obviously have some great offensive weapons, but the Titans actually had one of their starting linemen out. Was it Jack Conklin?
Yeah, Jack Conklin. He's one of the starting tackles, and obviously that affected Marcus Mariota throughout the whole game. He got sacked a lot from the right side, and 8 times, that's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. That's it's very difficult to pass in certain situations when you have so much pressure on you as a quarterback. The Titans defense really didn't do anything to stop Tom Brady. They had 5 touchdowns in the game. They didn't hold them to any field goals. So it was really a decisive victory in the Patriots' eyes. And I know they're looking forward to the AFC Championship matchup this weekend on Sunday. The other game in the AFC was the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I know there's a lot of local Steelers fans that are very upset with this game. A lot of the fingers have been pointed at their offensive coordinator, Todd Haley, but the Jaguars really came out of the gates. They were up by 21 points in the first quarter. It was 21-0. What do you think about that game, Julian?
Well, the Steelers' offense played well. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger threw 5 touchdowns. But, I mean, he did have 2 turnovers, the 1 interception and the fumble that was returned for a touchdown by Telvin Smith, the outside linebacker for the Jaguars. So, and I think there was also a lot of questionable play calling. You know, they did that screen to the right to Le'Veon Bell a few times, and that didn't work at all with those 2 great defensive ends, Yannick Ngakoue, Calais Campbell. And they went for it on 4th down a few times and didn't really go well for them, and the onside kick at the end of the game, which led to a Josh Lambo field goal.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a lot of this was they really dug themselves a hole early on. It was 21-0. That really made it hard for them to win this game. They came back, you know, they really made a very good effort to come back. They put up 42 points on the Jaguars defense. That's honestly number 1 in the league this year. But yeah, that questionable onside kick call, you know, if they would have just kicked it off and got a 3 and out, they would have got the ball back with about a minute and a half left. You know, they had some 4th down calls that, you know, it was 4th and 1 at one point. Quarterback sneak with the tallest quarterback in the league, Ben Roethlisberger, would have done fine right there. Not sure why they ran you know, a little sweep to the right there. It didn't work out for them. A couple 4th downs, they did get, you know, they got a touchdown to Antonio Brown on the first 4th and 12, I believe. You know, Ben had a decent game. He had 5 touchdowns, 469 yards. What more can you ask out of him? Obviously, like you said, that fumble really hurt him. That put 7 points on the board for the Jaguars. But yeah, the play calling, you know, wasn't great on offense, and it's hard to stop Leonard Fournette. He really had another great game, 3 rushing TDs and over 100 yards. So
yes, and I think also, you know, Blake Bortles' scrambling was very key because there were some 3rd and longs, and he converted on 3rd down, just got them first downs, and that really decided the game for them.
It did, and it was very surprising to me to see them convert those 3rd downs when the Steelers are playing at home. Usually the Steelers at home, their defense really steps up in those situations, but you know they just really let everyone down this year. So the Jaguars again won 45-42 in a very close call victory in the AFC divisional round. I'll let you talk about the NFC. What were the games in the NFC?
Sure. So. Yeah, the Eagles defeated the Atlanta Falcons 15-10, and that game ended with Julio Jones not coming down with a game-winning touchdown. So what are your thoughts about that game?
Well, it was probably the most boring game of the slate out of all 4 games this weekend. It was a very close call. It was 15-10. You usually see Julio Jones come up with some big grabs. He's one of the best receivers in the league. But in the red zone, for some reason this year, Matt Ryan could not connect with him. Matt Ryan to Julio Jones, I think they were like 3 for 28 in the red zone this year.
That's been terrible.
Which is atrocious by any standard. Obviously when you have a big body guy like Julio, he can jump up there and get the ball. Matt Ryan was really obviously counting on him to do that on that 4th down. So the Eagles' defenses really look good. They really have.
Well, yeah, I think they made the Falcons one-dimensional because they could not run the ball, and it was really up to Matt Ryan to get it done in the passing game, which he did. He did a good job, but I mean, obviously that last missed touchdown pass is tough.
Absolutely. A lot of people saw the Philadelphia Eagles going down early in the playoffs with Carson Wentz going out and be done for the season. You have a veteran quarterback with Matt Ryan. You have the Falcons that went to the Super Bowl last year. A lot of people thought the Falcons were going to decisively win this game, and it didn't turn out that way. So I think it really attests to the Eagles' defense and how well they've been playing this whole entire year. The other game in the NFC was the Minnesota Vikings and the New Orleans Saints. Let you talk about that.
Oh yeah, so the Vikings won 29-24, and the game-winning touchdown came within the last 10 seconds, where Case Keenum threw a 61-yard pass to Stephon Diggs, and it was a walk-off touchdown. And Marcus Williams missed a big tackle at the end of the game.
Yeah, I think that was one of the most exciting finishes that I've ever seen, in my lifetime, for the NFL playoffs. It was really back and forth there. In the 4th quarter, there was a lot of back and forth. A field goal here, a field goal on the other side. It went back and forth, I think, 4 times, and it was capped off, with one of the most exciting finishes ever. Case Keenum, 61-yarder to Stephon Diggs. As you said, Marcus Williams dives at his knees right before he's about to catch the ball, and he obviously whiffed on that tackle, and it left a wide open running lane for Stephon Diggs to score that game-winning touchdown. A lot of people are pointing fingers at Marcus Williams. I mean, what do you think about that? I don't think it's his fault.
Well, I think it's important to point out that Marcus Williams had that interception at the end of the 3rd quarter, which really gave the Saints some momentum. Drew Brees threw a few touchdowns in the 4th quarter. Will Lutz hit that field goal. I mean, so it definitely wasn't Marcus Williams' fault that they lost the game. Drew Brees also threw 2 interceptions, and they couldn't establish the run game. So it's definitely not his fault. I mean, there's other opportunities to win the game.
Absolutely, and I'm a firm believer of it's not just one play that makes the game. Obviously, that was a tough loss at the very end. It was a walk-off win, very exciting game. But I feel bad for Marcus Williams. He had a great game otherwise. But like you said, the run game the Saints couldn't get it going. It was weird to see Drew Brees just not have. I think he had 2 yards offensively passing in the 1st quarter. The Saints only had 68 rushing yards and 65 receiving yards total between Ingram and Kamara for the game. Usually that's around 200.
Oh yeah. Well, and both those guys are going to the Pro Bowl this year, so you expect them to have a lot of all-purpose yards.
Right, yeah. Normally between them, I think they average 200 yards. So it to be only about 130 is quite below their average. But yeah, it was probably the most exciting game on the slate, obviously because of that dramatic finish. But it was a good weekend for divisional round football for sure.
Oh yeah, so that about does it for our divisional round playoff recap. We'll be back with our Super Bowl predictions.
Matches that are coming up on Sunday. The first one being the NFC Championship, which is the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Minnesota Vikings. Julian, who do you think is going to win this game and why?
I think it's going to be the Minnesota Vikings. They have that great defense, which has playmakers at all levels. Whether it's Everson Griffin at defensive end, Eric Kendricks at linebacker, Xavier Rhodes, and a few others as well. And I just feel like, I mean, they'll cause the Eagles to be one-dimensional with that defense. And I feel like Case Keenum will do what he has to do and just not turn the ball over.
I think you make a valid point there. Their defense has really stood out. You know, the Eagles' defense has been very solid as well. I'm projecting a very low-scoring game. I think the Vikings will win. I think, you know, Case Keenum has shown this year that he's fought through adversity. He's kept that starting job. I think they are going to put up some points, but I think it's going to be a very, very, very close game.
Yeah. And I think we might be picking a different team if Carson Wentz was playing for the Eagles.
Absolutely. I mean, Nick Foles has came in. He's produced mediocre numbers, but they've continued to win. A lot of credit goes to their defense. But, yeah, I think if Carson Wentz was in there, we'd be picking the Eagles right now. But Carson Wentz isn't in there. So, you know, you have to go with the Minnesota Vikings here in the NFC. So I think the Vikings are going to be the NFC champions. The other matchup on the other side of the coin is, of course, the AFC Championship game. That is the New England Patriots versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Who do you think is going to win that, Julian?
The Patriots. I mean, because, you know, Tom Brady is obviously the best quarterback to ever play the game of football.
He is the GOAT.
The GOAT. And I feel like he just does a great job of finding the mismatch. And I feel like, you know, he can do that with Gronkowski, any of the receivers, Deion Lewis. I mean, so I think he'll find the mismatch and he'll score a lot of points, much like the Pittsburgh Steelers did. And I don't see the Patriots making any questionable calls. And their defense also does a great job of not allowing a lot of points.
I'm going to have to agree with you on that. I think the Patriots are going to win this game. I know a lot of local fans absolutely despise the Patriots just because of their recent success against the Steelers. But, you know, they have all the tools. They have a great defensive front. You know, their secondary is decent. They have, the greatest quarterback of all time in Tom Brady. The Jaguars' defense is really good. They have Jalen Ramsey in the secondary. They have, like you said, some great linemen up front. But I just don't know if they have enough firepower to keep up with the Patriots. It's, you know, you have Blake Bortles, you know, you have Bortles service back there at quarterback, but he has really not shown us that he's more than a serviceable, quarterback this year. You know, he isn't the big playmaker like sometimes they need. But I think it'll be a closer game than most people think. I think the Jaguars will put up some points, but I think it'll be a decisive victory for the Patriots. So that leads us to the next thing is the Super Bowl. So we're going to have in the NFC the Minnesota Vikings going against the New England Patriots, and it's actually funny the Super Bowl is located in Minnesota this year. Is that correct?
Minnesota, yeah, that's correct.
So that'll make for an interesting matchup. The Minnesota having home field advantage, if you will, in the Super Bowl. I don't know when the last time we've seen that is. So that's the Minnesota Vikings versus the New England Patriots. What do you think? Who's going to win the Super Bowl, Julian? What's your prediction?
It's really tough. I mean, obviously, because the Patriots have been to 7 straight AFC championships, and Tom Brady's won 5 Super Bowls in his career, and this will be his 6th Super Bowl if he were to win. But I have to go with the Vikings, man. I feel like they're just a team of destiny. Like seems like a lot like a Cinderella story with Case Keenum being a journeyman around the NFL and having a good year, and so I think. I have to go with the Vikings, man, because the defense, their offense doesn't turn the ball over. I think Pat Shurmur has done a great job with that offense. I mean, they still are top 10 in running the football. I mean, despite the injury of Dalvin Cook, and Case Keenum has had a good year. He's had 26 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and he's done a good job, man. I just think maybe they can win it all.
Well, there you have it. Write that down, folks. Julian Howell is predicting the Minnesota Vikings to upset the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. I don't know if it's an upset yet because the Vikings are playing at home. I'm going to have to say the Patriots are going to win. That's my prediction. I can't bet against Tom Brady. It just never works out for me. But yeah, I think it's going to be a close matchup. Like you said, they have a great. The Vikings have a good run game. They have a great defense. They don't turn the ball over a lot. But the Patriots just have a lot of firepower. They got Gronk. They got Tom Brady. it's hard to stop them on offense. You got Brandon Cooks, Dion Lewis receiving the ball out of the backfield. It'll be a very good matchup if that's what it comes down to be in the Super Bowl. Again, I'm predicting the Patriots do win. Of course, they won last year, overcoming a 27-point deficit to the Atlanta Falcons. So it shows that they do have resilience and fight in their team. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. I think it'll be a good Super Bowl no matter what. But we'll be looking forward to what happens in the NFC Championship and the AFC Championship this weekend. And that does it for our Super Bowl predictions part of this episode. We'll be back shortly with our head coach tracker.
Okay, welcome back to Let's Talk Sports by the Lake. We're going to close the show with a head coaching tracker. So far, a few coaches have been hired. John Gruden was hired by the Raiders on a 10-year, $100 million contract. So what are your thoughts about that, Jake?
I think it's the perfect hire for the Oakland Raiders. John Gruden obviously has a lot of tenure with that organization. He's very close ties to the Oakland Raiders. I think literally when they're moving to Las Vegas, it's the perfect big splash hiring that they were looking for. The 10-year, $100 million contract is insane to me. I think John Gruden's like, show me the money and I'll be back. Literally, they showed him the money and he is back. So I think it's a great hire for the Oakland Raiders. I think they have a lot of talent there with Derek Carr, Amari Cooper, their defense, Khalil Mack. I think he can really turn that franchise in the right direction. It looked like they were on their way to going to the playoffs. I know you and I made some predictions earlier this year that they were going to be a playoff contender. They really didn't put it all together this year. So I think he will help them in that regard, and I think it's a great hire for them.
I agree.
The next hire we're going to talk about is the Chicago Bears. They hired the Chiefs offensive coordinator, Matt Nagy, as their next head coach. Why do you think the Bears went offensive coordinator going forward?
Because they drafted Mitch Trubisky last year, and he's their quarterback of the future going forward. And I think they want to see Mitch make that leap, much like Carson Wentz did this past season. So I think they really want to emphasize the offense, because I feel like their defense is pretty solid with Leonard Floyd, Kyle Fuller. So I think they really want to focus or emphasize the offense with that hire.
I think that makes sense. I think it definitely they obviously drafted Trubisky for a reason. They planned him to start next year. He started some games this year and did he was mediocre, but he was a game manager and they didn't really have him throwing a lot. I think hiring of Matt Nagy is going to help him develop, like you said, and I think it'll be good for them. The next hiring is the Giants are expected to hire Vikings offensive coordinator Pat Shurmur. The Vikings obviously still in the playoffs, haven't announced anything that he's going to the Giants yet. What do you think about that hiring for the Giants?
Yeah, so I think it's a great hire because Pat Shurmur has done a great job with the Vikings offense this year. They're top 10 in rushing. Case Keenum has looked good this year. So I think it's a good hire, and he'll get another chance to be head coach because, as you know, he coached the Browns in 2011 and 2012.
That he did. Obviously did not have a lot of success with the Browns. But yeah, I think he's going to get another opportunity with the Giants. They have some talent there, Odell Beckham being the highlighted name on their roster. Who knows if Eli Manning's going to be around next year or if they're going to draft a quarterback. I believe they have the number 3 pick in the draft, or it's
number 2.
Number 2. They have the number 2 pick in the draft. So it'll be interesting to see if they draft a quarterback with that number 2 pick, whether it be Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen. So Pat Shurmur is going to be the new coach of the Giants. Moving on, we have 2 of the New England Patriots coordinators that are going to be signed to coaching contracts after the season's over. I know the first one, defensive coordinator Matt Patricia, recently was announced that he's likely going to become the head coach of the Detroit Lions. I know you should be excited about that as a Lions fan. How do you feel about that hiring?
Well, I'm absolutely thrilled, because Matt Patricia has done a great job as defensive coordinator for the Patriots. They're among the teams that give up the least amount of points in the NFL. And he knows Bob Quinn from Bob Quinn's time with the Patriots, because Bob Quinn was the director of pro player personnel, and it's just really a lot of connections there. I think Matt Patricia will help that defense out a lot, and they didn't do a good job of rushing the passer this past season. They couldn't really stop the run, and a lot of that had to do with Haloti Ngata being injured. And so I really just think it's a good hire. I mean, you have a quarterback in place in Matt Stafford. You have some good receivers. I think a good offensive line if they can stay healthy.
Absolutely.
And I mean, and the secondary on the defense is really good. So they just really got to focus on that front seven, just stop the run, and
get some pressure
on the quarterback, and just really they just really want to win. We talked about this the last time we were watching the games together. The Lions seem to fizzle out at the end of each season, or they don't win the big games. So they need a new leader, and I think Bob Quinn has this guy, and hopefully it goes well for them going forward.
Very good. Very well put, Julian. I think Matt Patricia will bring that defensive stalwart to the Lions, and I think that's a great hire for them. On the other side of the ball for the Patriots, offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels is likely to become the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. Personally, I think that's a great hire for the Colts. I think Josh McDaniels has shown that he can be a head coach previously with the Denver Broncos. He has a great offensive mind. With Andrew Luck hopefully coming back for the next year, I think that's a great combination for the Colts to succeed in the future. With the next hiring we're going to discuss, actually there's 2 vacancies still left. You want to touch on those?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So the 2 available vacancies are the Tennessee Titans and the Arizona Cardinals. The Tennessee Titans actually parted ways with Mike Mularkey after losing the divisional game against the Patriots. And I think, they just want to get the most out of Marcus Mariota because he had a down year this year. He threw 13 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. You want to see more out of him. I think he's capable of doing it. So hopefully the next coach can maximize Marcus Mariota. And with the Arizona Cardinals, Bruce Arians stepped down, and it was a really emotional moment. He just wants to spend some more time with his family. So, yeah, what are your thoughts about those?
Well, I think the Titans, obviously, they made the playoffs. I think that Mike Mularkey, they said it was a mutual agreement that both of them decided they would split ways. But yeah, I think a lot of it goes back to Marcus Mariota really not having a great year, really not developing into that elite quarterback that a lot of people thought he was going to be. All right. Lastly, we're going to touch on a head coaching position that is not vacant for some godforsaken reason. For some insane reason, Hugh Jackson is still the coach of the Cleveland Browns. I really don't understand why that is, Julian. It is mind-boggling. It is baffling. It doesn't make any sense to me. But the Cleveland Browns, as everyone knows, they didn't win a game this season. They were 0-16. And going back to last season, they were 1-15. It really baffles me to why Hugh Jackson is still in Cleveland, why Jimmy Haslam hasn't hand-selected another coach. I get the continuity thing. I understand that you don't want to have high turnover rate like there was in previous seasons, but clearly it is not working. So please, Jimmy Haslam, fire Hugh Jackson, find a real coach. I'd appreciate it. And that does it for Let's Talk Sports by the Lake, episode 8. Again, I'm Jake Bartko.
I'm Julian Howell.
And have a great day, football fans.
Thank you.